I feel obliged to do everything I can lawfully with my executive authority to make sure that we don't keep on making the system worse, but that whatever executive actions that I take will be replaced and supplanted by action by Congress. You send me a bill that I can sign, and those executive actions go away.
Well, it was President Obama today saying Congress has the next 6 or 7 weeks to pass immigration reform, or he's going to take executive action. How's that for a welcome to the new Congress? Joining me now, Bill Burton, former White House Deputy Press Secretary under President Obama and now Executive Vice President of Global Strategies Group, and former speechwriter for President George W. Bush and American Enterprise Institute fellow Mark Thiessen. We're going to start with Bill. Bill, good to see you. Before we get to immigration, what do you make of what happened last night?
It was a tough night. I think that if you have to take any lesson from it whatsoever, it's that Democrats are never going to be able to win in midterms if we don't figure out how to talk to white voters. I honestly think that that's it. I don't think that the message that we have has been able to really translate to the coalition of voters that help bring Republicans into to even more power.
Was President Obama a drag on the ticket, like Mark Pryor said?
I think a second-term president in a midterm is always kind of a drag on the ticket. And this time, with the president at 42%, losing that many seats, you know, Ronald Reagan at this point in his presidency was at 62, and he lost over 20 seats. So I think that at 42, it was not destined to go well.
I gotta say, I am going to get to immigration, but how did we go from the Greek columns in Vesco Field, the moment everybody feeling, you know, to this? How did it happen? Both houses of Congress, the White House, take it, go with it, run with it, to get out of here, you too, and all the governors, go!
Couple things. Number one, presidential elections and midterm elections are totally different electorates. And so the kind of fight that you have when the president actually is on the ballot is one that he's engaged in. He's engaging constituencies that are more likely to support Democrats in presidential years. And then in the midterms, I think that you're always in a situation where people are looking at the situation around the world. And when you're in a situation that we're in right now, where the economy is doing better, but the middle class isn't feeling it, you're seeing these crises around the world from Ebola to ISIS, and the president's just unpopular, I think it's very, very tough to win a lot of seats.
Is that why we're seeing him say what he's saying on immigration? Because many people came out today and said this is about satisfying or placating the Latino vote, the Hispanic vote, gearing up for 2016 for whoever the next Democrat will be.
Well, if I could take 1 second and take off my Obama hat and just be my guy watching the presidential press conference hat, you know, every president, be it Bill Clinton or George W. Bush, at this press conference where they lost a bunch of seats, they talk about the math a little bit, and I think the president did a pretty good job staying out of the punditry. But there was a point at which he said, you know, 2/3 of Americans didn't vote and that sort of thing. And I think that, you know, just like George W. Bush said, yeah, we lost a lot of seats, but it was really close in all those seats that we lost. Mm-hmm. In this case, though, yes, it was not the same share of the Hispanic vote as it has been in presidential years. But at the same time, I don't think the president is just talking about the Hispanic vote when he's talking about immigration. What he's talking about is taking care of an issue that Republicans and Democrats all across the country think need to be addressed right now. A majority of Americans support it.
Because he waited so long to prioritize this. You know, he went in, he had a lot of goodwill, he had the wind behind his back, and he spent so much time and capital and that goodwill on health care, which was so divisive. And you heard Ed Henry saying now 28 senators who voted for the health care bill are now gone. And the question was, why didn't he prioritize this? And is this sort of a last act of desperation to say, I did all I could?
No, you know, I was with President Obama from the very beginning on his first campaign. And I remember the day that he was on the campaign trail and he said, I will take on immigration in the first year of my presidency. And all of us at the campaign were like, wow, that seems really hard to actually get done. But he kept it on the burner, the back burner. He moved it up to the front burner, and he's tried and tried and tried. Finally, got a bill that actually passed the Senate that they would not take up in the House. And now the president's finally at the point where he's saying, "Look, if you will not act, Congress, I'm going to do it." Mm-hmm. And you know, frankly, from a leverage perspective, from a negotiating perspective, this is probably pretty good because if he can get the Republicans to come to the table and say, okay, let's work on immigration, then he'll say, okay, well, maybe we don't have to do the executive order. Let's all work together.
Now, if he doesn't, Bill, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you for being here. Mark Thiessen's with us, too. Mark, if they don't get a bill and he decides to pursue this with executive action, the Republicans are going to come back with this soundbite and others like it. This is the president with Univision, I think, on radio a couple of years ago being asked why he didn't do more on immigration reform when the Congress wouldn't do what he wanted. Listen.
You know, we live in a democracy. We don't live in a monarchy. I'm not the king. I'm the president. And so I can only implement those laws that are passed through Congress.
Mark?
That's the most ironic quote of all. I mean, if you look at his actions on Obamacare and all these other bills, I mean, this is not a president who seems to be very constrained by what Congress passes. But look, the reason he didn't get comprehensive immigration reform passed last year is because of his own immigration policies. It was his last executive order on immigration, this deferred deportation of children, that caused the whole immigration border crisis last year. And so now he's saying that he's going to do a double down on that and do another executive order that's going to create another magnet for immigration. I mean, I think we have a president who's in denial here, Megyn. This is a guy who thinks he's got a 2/3 of the country's silent majority, as if 2/3 of the voters not showing up to vote for Democratic candidates is some sort of an endorsement. He doesn't have popular support for what he is doing. If this was so popular, if this represented the will of the American people, why didn't he do this last year before the elections? Why did he wait until after the elections? Why didn't he sign this executive order last summer and have every Democrat run on it? Because the Democrats came to him and said, don't do this. This is incredibly unpopular, and we're going to lose the Senate because of it. So that's why he didn't do it. And the result is they lost the Senate anyway. So now he has nothing to lose.
So why is he doing it? Just because he thinks it's the right thing to do and he doesn't care about the legal fallout or political?
I think because he's trying to placate his base. I think he's less concerned with governing than he is with gaining political advantage. And you can see this even in what he's doing right now. Like he's saying, if you don't pass it in the next 6 weeks, no realistic person thinks he's going to pass it. The Congress is going to pass comprehensive immigration reform in the next 6 weeks. So why is he waiting 6 weeks? Could there be something happening on December 6th in the state of Louisiana that we wouldn't want this to happen before? This executive order was written last summer. It's sitting in the White House staff secretary's office. He could pull it out and sign it today and be done with it. Why is he waiting till the end of the year? It's all about politics for this guy.
Do you think that he has a point that, you know, the people who didn't go to the polls, they aren't necessarily against him, that there is some silent majority out there that just wasn't motivated because they don't really care about the midterms?
You know, if I haven't seen the poll out there, maybe MSNBC has it. I haven't seen a poll out there that shows 2/3 of the country supports him. I mean, this is an incredibly unpopular president, and this was an anti-democratic wave. I mean, think about this. The governors of Illinois and Maryland are Republicans now. Yeah. This was not some sort of niche election. This was an anti-Obama, anti-democratic wave.
Mark, good to see you.